This presentation is about dilemmas which can arise in the relationships between the tutors and the students. Uh, Marianne Donahue and Sheila Zwern will give some examples of these difficulties and suggest some solutions. And it may be that people who are here today will want to raise some questions themselves about things that have been puzzling to them. So, Marianne and Sheila, will you go ahead, please?
Sure, I'd be glad to. I can start, Sheila, I'll start with my little vignette. Okay. What I'd like to talk about was over the years working with students, ESL and LES. Oftentimes, students will bring you a gift, either maybe at a holiday when they usually have their gift giving kinds of um, habits, or at another time, just in great gratitude for what they feel like you're giving them. I even had a student couple who came in and brought lunch one day. So you're going, these sort of things will happen. And for the most part, it's not an issue. If it's something of low value or um, I think it's important for us to graciously respond and not saying absolutely not, I cannot accept anything. I think that is a turn off for the student. And we want the student to feel good and to feel like they are being recognized um, when they try to be thankful. So I usually this has worked, and I would give them at the time I talk about. I always have a little explanation that we're all volunteers and that we tutor because we love it. It's something that we really enjoy, and we get satisfaction from helping other people. And we don't expect to earn money or to have gifts given to us. And in fact, that the Literacy Council discourages us from accepting gifts. Um, and usually, if somebody hears this, they will pull back and maybe, not present you with things as often or at all. I also explain how the learning of the student and watching them progress is really the reward that I get for doing the tutoring. Um, and this has often worked well. However, I recently had a new version come up, and this was a student who gave me a gift card. Okay, it was for a restaurant, and I explained as always about not accepting gifts or expecting gifts. And the student, I decided to talk to the student about our funding and turn the situation around from giving me gifts to perhaps giving the Literacy Council gifts. So I explained about our uh, budget and what we have to raise each year in order to make the budget to keep the program running. And what this student did was about 3 weeks later came in with a check for the Literacy Council. And it probably would have been handy for me to have some envelopes. And I think Maureen, could you answer a question for me? Do we have envelopes for gift giving to the Literacy Council?
That'd be great.
Okay, well, I don't hear her responding, so maybe she had to take a break for a minute. So I think we do. I just don't know where they are.
She's on mute. Maureen,
Maureen, you're muted.
I'm sorry. We do, Marianne, we just have, plain number 10 envelopes in the office with nothing on it. They're just generic. I don't know if you wanted something specific.
Or
on
a
the-
flyer,
Pardon?
or a flyer that we could hand out.
I don't think
I think
someone
that I
a
think
flyer saying what exactly? That we accept donations?
we haven't dealt with that, so how to do it. We might want to talk to the people who do the
There
outreach.
are, we have printed donation envelopes.
Yes,
So those are also in the office. Marianne, if you're facing the main office computer
yes.
And on the left-hand side is that a cabinet,
Yes.
the upper cabinet. Left side is where there are generic envelopes, and I'll make sure the next time in the office, I have to check to see if there is a supply of donation envelopes. But if there aren't, I will take them from the storage locker and put them up there as well.
Thank you. That would be great. And it might be something we want to bring to one of these meetings and to show
Sure.
people what it looks like.
Okay.
Okay, so that was a good thing because it wasn't. But what happened later was that about a month later, the student brought another donation. And so I forwarded it to it. Now, if a student is give you, yes,
One other thing, at the conference, which is coming up on March 7th, I'll be
yes,
happy to bring a supply to the conference. So any tutor that would like to take some with them, they'll be available.
but that sounds like a good plan. Thank you, Maureen. That way we have it right there and ready. So the second time the student brought something, I again put it in an envelope, addressed it to SBLC, and took it to the office. And both times, what happens when a student, I thought you'd be interested in knowing this, when anyone gives a donation to Literacy Council, a thank you letter is generated and sent to that person. And this is a very nice letter. So just to know that it is recognized, that they do reinforce the fact that the person has made a donation. Now, I would consider this a pretty good outcome. Not every student is going to want to do this. For some people, it's not culturally appropriate. For other people, they are just focused on the fact this is a free service and isn't that great. However, this student went on with his with the attempts to want to give me things. So I'm in the fortunate place where I have a number of students. I have been taking on the LES students as they come in because we don't have tutors. So what I did with this student when he began asking me to go out to dinner with him, I drew a boundary and I had to talk specifically about what's the difference between a tutor-student relationship and friends. And obviously, students oftentimes want to be friends because they're in a new country and they don't have something that, they have extensive relationships. But if the relationship becomes social, then the door is open for more time and investment to be required than, frankly, I have to give each student. I'm there, I really put a lot of focus on making sure that when I'm in my class with my student, I'm there in every way and attentive and interested in everything they have to say and helping them learn. But I couldn't even possibly continue if all four of my students wanted to call me during the week and chat or wanted to ask me how to do this or that or the other thing outside of the tutoring. So it's protecting, in some ways, it's protecting yourself and your own commitment to the organization by helping the student understand that it's not a reciprocal relationship. It's not a friendship. And I wanted to bring that up for discussion and see how people felt about that. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts about that? Laura?
Yeah, I think that's really a timely issue. And I'm thinking I had started with, let's see, I had three tutors at the Southeast Library, the Walteria Library here in Torrance. I don't know if you're from Torrance. So yeah, and that was working out well. But then the husbands got transferred, out of LA for two of them. And we were having good rapport with, and the other person decided to volunteer at her school. So I ended up with one left, and we moved over to the library that's right near my house. In fact, it's almost next door to my house, the Southeast Library, very convenient for me. And I had two, and then one's husband got transferred, Toyota, to Tucson, I think. And I'm left with one, and that has been a very positive relationship. But she had brought her baby with her, and the baby was so good that we did not disturb anyone. And it's a little different relationship than I would normally have with my tutees because I accommodated that and the librarian didn't care. And there was no, the baby was sleeping. So that relationship has become a one-on-one, and it is a little different because I have accommodated her special circumstances with her children and her child. But now I have started teaching at the YMCA, and I have more than one, and they're all very different. And I think that what you are describing is the appropriate relationship. And this young, she's very sweet, and she has given me little treats and Japanese things, and I feel it is the Japanese custom, and if she can afford to do that, they're small, but I do accept them in that relationship. But if I have more of a regular group, I think that what you were saying is what's appropriate.
Did anyone else have any comments they'd like to make?
John?
Yeah, I do, Marianne. I have lots of thoughts about this. So I was jotting them down. I even raised something about this at our fall meeting that my relationships are quite friendly with all of my students. And I have to be careful not to ask them things that are overly personal when we're having conversation. Some of it is about, their immigration status and their work that I really shouldn't know everything about that. But also I want to be friendly and I don't want to pry. And so I try to be careful about the bounds there, but I wanted to talk about gifts too. A long time ago, I used to teach at a university, and I remember one day a graduate student drove to my house. It was like an hour's drive in a snowstorm and brought me a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't take that. And it was sort of a cultural thing for him, I think. And of course, that was a situation where I couldn't accept gift. I graded this fellow. I don't remember exactly what he wanted, but he was a graduate student, and my opinion was important to his future. But I have accepted modest gifts from my current students. I mean, I talked about Russian tea with one of my students, and she sent me some tea as a sample, and I thought that was nice. And one of my students is a hairdresser, and she came over one day and cut our hair. And I've actually included these people on my Christmas gift list like family. We send them a loaf of something from Zingerman's Bakehouse every holidays. And it hasn't really grown into anything that crosses boundaries. They don't call me during the week and chat. They don't even live locally, so we don't get together except on Zoom. So I thought about sending them gifts. I wanted to make sure it wasn't crossing an important boundary, but I'm sort of glad to have done it. And see, the other note I made, one of my students asked for help with her resume, and it helped her. She had great credentials, but they weren't really written up very well. And that was something positive I could do as a tutor. That it's friendly, but it's kind of within my role. And then for another one of my students, I had thought her husband has an H-1B visa. And I thought about his opportunities in Canada when I read what's going on. And I held back on that. I thought that was a little too personal to start offering unsolicited career advice. If she asked me, I'd answer the question. But yeah, so I think this is a really interesting question, and the boundaries are important. But I have, while being careful about those boundaries, I've sort of embraced the friendships too.
Yeah.
as
And
students.
John, I do want to say that when you brought up boundaries at the fall conference, that was what spurred this on, this discussion. And it sounds like this is a good discussion for another tutors talk also. It sounds like there's a lot that can be discussed. And, sometimes it's a fine line as far as what you accept and what you don't. And a lot of cultures, the little gifts are um, part of their saying thank you. And so, yes, I think there's nothing wrong with little gifts. Um, but just I'll do this quickly because I would like some more feedback. Just a couple of examples. And also, what I think would be a long discussion for another time, is how much self disclosure you do. And John, you brought that up. One of my students knew that I was a social worker slash therapist because a social worker friend of mine referred her. I was her tutor. She wanted me to be her therapist, which did give us time to work on the TH. But I had to let her know that no, that wasn't my role. She kept asking me and asking me. And then what I did do was I gave her resources in her area for therapy, for free therapy. So that I felt comfortable doing. A second uh, example would be um, my other student. She has little kids, and the school was doing a fundraiser. So she did ask me. So I did give money to the school. Um, I wouldn't have given money directly to her. That I feel that wouldn't have been appropriate. But we had enough of a relationship over the years where I donated money to the school for their uniforms or sports team or whatever it was. But and the other thing is self-disclosure. So, for instance, last year I had to have a major surgery and I was going to be gone. I wasn't going to be able to tutor for a while. So I did have to disclose that. I had to say I'm having surgery and I'm going to be out for a couple of months. And one of my students did send me flowers. Um, I don't know how she got my home address, but I guess you can get those things somehow. She did send me flowers, which as a custom, she said, that's our custom. Somebody's in the hospital, you send flowers. So, it's really a fine line sometimes. So I'll stop there, and because we only have a few minutes, and again, we could revisit this next time. But any other comments people want to talk about, please?
I'll add one thing. I have a couple of students from Japan who they've moved back to Japan and they've been gone for a couple of years and they're still sending me emails, pictures of their kids, how they've grown, what they're doing in Japan. And it just warms my heart every time I hear from them. It makes me feel like I made a difference in their life. And then I have a student, one of my Wilmington students, she was a long-time student, and she invited me to quinceañeras at her house, and we had a lot of time together. And she moved, and I told her I wanted to have a party for her before she left. And she just left, and she didn't want to have a party. And around the holidays, me and the other students, we tried to FaceTime with her. She didn't return the call. And I was pretty close to her, and I'm so surprised she hasn't reached out to stay in contact. But I decided it's not a personal thing. I think it's more a cultural thing. and she's concentrating on moving, getting her very large family settled in a new place. And I decided I can't take it personally. So
No, don't.
I do think it's a cultural thing.
Definitely do not take it personally. As
No,
someone who communicates with these students all the time, they poof you a lot. That's what
yeah,
I
I
call it.
was
It's
really
poofing.
surprised.
The other thing I might suggest to you is if you have a student who wants to give money, I had my English speaking, it was an LES student, learn that we were working on fundraising, which we're always doing at the council, right? And I said, no, we don't want your money. We do not want your money. What we want from you is your success, and we need a story out of it. So would you please write a story for me? Well, that shut him off. He didn't want to do that, but we were, I said, you can do it in your native language or you can do it in English. It doesn't matter what the spelling looks like, just do it. Well, he hasn't done it yet, but still, that's a suggestion you could do instead of money.
Mary, I think, there's no way to overestimate the amount of fear that's out there. And for people who don't have papers, staying out of sight is very important.
Yeah.
And any kind of contact is potentially dangerous.
Yes.
So I'm confident that it was not a slight towards you.
No, I am too. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. That's a good reminder that we have to watch what's going on in our society as well. We are interpreting things. Thank you.